Oh, hey everybody! It's time for Nerdlog. Well, it's not time for Nerdlog though, right? Isn't it? It's Wednesday. Does Nerdlog's
Is
on
it
Thursday?
Nerdbug?
Is it Nerdlog? It is Nerdlog. It's Nerdlog user stories. It's a whole new thing, baby.
Yay.
We are trying out a new little format. People have loved the Nerdlog, which is so cool. And so we are trying out. So something we started talking about was, well, can we have users of New Relic come on and talk about how neat it is? And that didn't really make sense with like, hey, here are recent product updates. So we did this new thing, Nerdlog user stories. We're going to talk about how people are using Nerdlog and how cool it is and what it is. So with me is my amazing co-host Daniel. Oh, I've got the Twitch open, so I know Daniel is two down for me. Daniel, say hi to the people. Tell them what you do at New Relic.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm a senior developer relations engineer at New Relic, which means I go on the internet and I do fun things around DevOps and observability and other things and work with the people from the community, like Emily, to level up their skills.
Oh, maybe we should have
Is that a
Emily
good
introduce
intro?
herself. I think that's like a nice segue. I think it's seamless. It feels seamless. Let's segue
Yeah.
into it. Emily, say hi to the people.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a high schooler, so I'm a student. And guess what? I'm using New Relic. And the thing is, why I joined the stream, I really want to show off the capability of this because it's just so cool how you can display the data. Like if you see Daniel's screen right now, like you have the repo links, they're interactable. The visuals are amazing. But yeah, I'm a student. I'm interested in New Relic. I'm tagging along with Daniel in making DevOps more accessible to people like me
So
and
this
really
is
anyone.
this is so neat. We actually have like we're gonna like circle back to this dashboard because love it. I also like genuinely I actually don't know how parts of it work. I don't know how those bottom two quarters work. So I'm like we got to talk about that. But let's start by talking about what is this app. And we see cabin GitHubs, which is not a term I'm used to. And like most full-time developers who've been doing this for nearly a decade, you're like, oh, is cabin GitHub something I'm supposed to know about and just never learned? Is another thing I don't properly understand. Let's talk about cabin GitHub. Let's talk about this app.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before we get started, I want to just shout out Future Stack, which is coming up. Me and Emily will be giving a talk on how we use New Relic to level up our remote developing skills. So, Mia, if you could shout out Future Stack on Twitch, everyone should go sign up for Future Stack. But anyway, so what this app is doing, me and Emily are part of a nonprofit called BitProject, and we run these open source free coding boot camps. But we found that as we tried to scale our efforts, a lot of the menial tasks of checking students' pull requests in their code could be automated. So we created this fake counselor named Counselor Bot. Well, she's very real, but she is just a figment in a cloud's imagination. This person is not real. It's a bot. So we created Counselor Bot that creates cabins or GitHub repos that automatically check students' answers and code to make sure they are doing a great job and making sure they're on track.
So
And it
this isn't
notifies
just stand
the
up.
instructors if on a student's progress. Wait, sorry, what's up?
Oh, this doesn't just stand up like you're gonna put your code here, but it actually does some like checking that repository.
Yeah, it's like completely, like, you're like interacting with the bot basically. You're like communicating with it. So you have like an online counselor that's managing your cabin, which is a repository. So we have this whole like camping theme going on here.
So how does it know? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm like stepping 9 steps ahead,
Oh,
but
this is a great
how does it
question.
know that the code is good? How does it like?
Oh my
That's a
gosh.
great
I am
question.
so glad we asked. So this is actually Chloe Condon, who's a developer advocate at Microsoft. She actually did a cabin with us last week. And you can kind of see how it worked through the GitHub Actions tab of GitHub. So because GitHub Actions comes baked in with all GitHub repositories, we are like, hey, let's take advantage of GitHub Actions to automatically test if the student's code is correct. So we step and we run a GitHub action that correlates with each step whenever a student commits. And whenever the commit actually passes the particular test, it moves on to the next step of the
So
project.
like let's like start with a really, really simple example. So let's say I want a student to write a program that logs that program that returns hello world in a function. So
Oh
we
yeah,
can
let
actually
me
test
pull that
that
up.
using GitHub Actions. We can run the function and check if it outputs hello world. If it doesn't output hello world, then we're going to throw an X. If it does wait, did I say that right? If it doesn't output hello world, we'll throw an
Yeah,
X.
Got it. We got it. Oh, so yeah, it's not like trying to look, because there's a couple versions of this that I've sort of seen as like, hey, we're trying to help new people, and one of them is that like it tries to look at the code and sort of parse the code to see if it's functionally the same, which was usually pretty limited, right? It's like, okay, so it's trying to ignore variable names and other stuff and sort of just look at what it might compile into, but it's often like pretty rough. But this is actually running the code to see like, does it return what we expect?
Correct. And we
exactly.
even made it like we even integrated it with Azure functions. So we asked the student to put their function endpoint in a secret inside the repository. And then we're going to take that secret and we're going to request to that endpoint and see if it returns what it's supposed to.
So, okay, so let's look at these actions when we're doing like added AZ function. Okay, so we
Very
return
professional,
what we're
I'd like to say.
expecting. So it looks like we run a bold check, and then yeah, we look for a return that in this case it's like a little more than the hello world. It's like asking for a date and a value.
Yeah, so the endpoint returns a date. So hello, the current date is, and then whatever.
Oh, right. And since this is serverless, like we can just say, hey, stand this up and then have it be at an endpoint. Be checking that endpoint to get that response.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm
And the
excited
best
now
part
that-
about this, oh yeah, sorry. Let me just add one more comment before we move on. The reason that we did it like this, so there's a lot of solutions out there to try to replace the human teacher. And I feel like that is really hard to do because it's really hard to teach best practices, especially when it comes to code through AI. So what we try to do is kind of simplify the menial tasks for the instructor to leave them more room to do the things that actually matter, like teaching best practices, teaching what like semantically good code looks like. So what this does is kind of gives the frees the instructor's time so they can actually go through the student's code for stylistic issues or best practices instead of going through it for correctness.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
So
I'll tell
we
you
want to
something
use
else
New
this-
Relic. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll tell you something else this does, which is kind of key to me, is that when I was just starting to learn, you would run into sort of old school Rails people who had sort of adopted this forward from old school Java people who said, you should do test driven development from the very start. Right. So instead of saying, oh, it printed hello world, great, move on to the next thing, you should say, no, the first thing you write or get is a test. And you should write something that matches that test. And this could get you back there. Right. And it's not saying, you know, in none of these is test driven development is not a way of saying, oh, you don't need a human to help you or you don't need to evaluate code. It's just saying, yeah, you should start with clear requirements and build to them, which I love that. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do I make a cabin? Can we drop a repo link in the Twitch chat and take a look?
Yeah. So you have to go to this link. I'll put it in the Zoom chat. Mia,
There's
if
two
you could
easy steps. The
do the
first one
honors.
is the one that Daniel's sending, and all you have to do is click install, and you're going to install it on all of your repositories.
And that's github.com/app/counselorpot. I'm going to try it along in parallel here.
Yeah, and also our app is open source. So if you want to see what it looks like behind the scenes, wait, let me look at it. I just want to make sure I point out the right link. It's Counselor. It's this one. This is the open source link. Let me drop that also in the chat. So this is the bot that powers all of this experience.
Got it.
Then all you have to do after you install it is go ahead and go to this link, which is the serverless curriculum that we have developed, which I will also drop.
Oh, wait, Emily, you had something to say. Let's pause for that. We had a little lag.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that it's built with Probot in case anyone was wondering.
Ooh, yeah. So I'm logging into flipping GitHub right now to take a look.
Nice. Yeah, so you can see the contributors are there.
Then what do we do, Emily? So what do we do when we land on this page, Emily?
We're going to click the big green button. I think for everything you is click the big green button. And
honestly.
then you can name it whatever you want. But for
I'm gonna
students,
say Nika loves dumplings because Nika has a neon sign of dumplings behind her.
Which readeth,
yes.
wait, I'm pointing with the wrong finger. Which readeth dumplings.
Yeah, so we do encourage students to name it something related to serverless though, because when they're displaying it on their GitHub, they can identify it as a serverless curriculum, not just like dumplings, but dumplings are good too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So do not follow
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Name it something related to serverless.
But once you create it, once you click the big green button, there should be an issue that automatically opens up on your repository. And it's going to be called Getting Started. And the bot basically gives you a bunch of instructions that take you through the course. Well, first only
Like the first step is, yeah, and we can actually see this in our New Relic dashboard because we
Yeah.
can see from the dashboard that I created 2 repos in the last like 30 minutes, which is Nika and Emily are fab, and also Nika loves dumplings. Like you can see the 2 repos that I
Yeah,
created.
and you also
using
look
this
at the new
template.
campers up top. You can
Well, yeah,
see
how do this? How are we doing these like text-based lists? They didn't used to have these back in dashboards when I first worked at New Relic 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
I think they're just tables. Yep, it's
just
a query.
like a table query. Oh, nice. Oh, that's very, very solid. I love that. So, okay, so someone goes to the repo, they say, hey, I want to create a new cabin of this, which will pull over these GitHub actions every time we commit to it. It'll check it for, is this really the right responses?
Mm-hmm.
As they do that, we'll get this tracked over to cabins. So how's this data? Obviously, we have some kind of underlying application hosting. How is that data getting from that app host or platform over to New Relic?
Well, we have the
That's a great question.
Heroku.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Heroku integration, which was actually super, super easy to set up. I was honestly pretty surprised at how quick it was. I was talking to Daniel and we were like, well, we need a way to get all the logs on there, right? And I was Googling, and then Daniel sent me wonderful documentation, and boom, 3 commands, and then so.
Yeah, so so now you can stream logs directly from Heroku. Okay. And I guess we're talking tomorrow on the Nerdlog updates. We're going to talk about actually some like extensions of this that are like coming out shortly. I know maybe you saw a demo of this earlier, Daniel, but for right now, I mean, this has been, we've had Heroku integration for quite some time. And for viewers who don't know what Heroku is, do you want to take a swing at that, Emily or Daniel?
Yeah, I'll take a swing at it. Heroku is an amazing platform. I think it is one of the first companies that pioneered platform as a service, where users are able to go in, create a dyno, as they call it, or a container, shove their app in, and then just run it. It's like the precursor
magic.
to serverless, I think.
Yeah,
it's such an amazing piece of technology that allows anyone, like from the hobbyist developer to someone who works for enterprise, to scale their applications up. So I find it to be like an amazing piece of technology.
So Emily, if you're wondering why they don't just call it containers instead of using their fancy internal term dynos, I mean, maybe you get this, but Heroku's been around significantly longer than anyone knew what a container was. So wow. I mean, like containers existed as there's like a Linux containers was like a concept, which is like it is like containers now, but it just wasn't like something.
It wasn't a container like they say.
Like a Docker container. Like I'm honestly still not totally sure on like what Docker really is. Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? We should talk about just super briefly. So,
oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. So so when we say like what is a container, we're saying we're packaging something up in a particular predictable way with its requirements. So with the other pieces of code that it needs. And it may expect certain components to be available on some kind of container platform. It may not, but you're packaging it up complete with its requirements. And so back in the day, the really miraculous experience with Heroku was you could say, hey, I have this project. I have a list of required packages to run it. Like, with Node, you might use npm to say, hey, here are the packages I need. And you could just send it up and it would be ready to go. You didn't have to go into the server and say, hey, install all this stuff to be ready. And in fact, you couldn't do that. It didn't let you, because the whole concept of the container is all the requirements have to be listed in with the package. And so Docker is a standard for doing that kind of containerization, but it is not the end all and be all, or sort of it is quite very much the default, but that is like a particular offering to do that container spec, to say, list me everything that you need to run your software. So serverless in some ways is like an extension of that, where now you don't worry about your requirements at all. You can just give your little blob of code. It's really actually kind of going in a different direction. But yeah, containers are a way of listing just, both packaging up the code and its requirements for a very standard deployment.
Cool. That was definitely helpful. Now I can say, like, I can explain what a Docker container is without just knowing the name.
If anybody wants to read more about the history of containers, I have an article coming out in Increment Magazine next month that's just about the history of containers. I was like, why am I talking about containers so much? I was like, oh, right, because you wrote like 3,000 words about this last week, and it's still well stuck. So so turning on this integration, and I'll tell you a funny story about this not the logs integration, but the metrics integration for Heroku. I got my start in tech working as New Relic tech support, and you always kind of feared these calls about Heroku in the data, and it wasn't because the data was bad or because the tech didn't work well. It actually almost worked too well. Like, at the time, it was very common to tell people, like, go host your like WordPress site or something on Heroku. So you had people with very limited knowledge of like how code worked or how servers worked, who could just turn on metrics integration. So they sort of signed up for New Relic, but they just really didn't get what the point of all this was. And since they were using code that someone else had written for them entirely, they weren't writing into their own code, it was a little less clear at the time like what New Relic was doing for them. So that we always just sort of feared that we were having these conversations that was like, oh, like, you're either this is not what you're interested in, or you're very, very new to it. But it was so easy to turn on and start getting data. Like, they had like complete dashboards. So that would mess with you. You'd be like, well, they must know what we're talking about, right? Because they have all this data. But no, you can just flip the switch.
Yeah. I think people have this like idea that New Relic is super difficult and time consuming to instrument into their apps, but literally it's just like filling out 2 or 3 fields and then just turning that switch on.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about earlier how surprising it was, how easy it was to integrate Heroku.
Yeah, to like send over logs. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
I think of it as a vacuum cleaner, honestly. It just sucks up everything.
Yeah. And in fact, right, if you do some kind of like horizontal scaling on Heroku, you're going to be very, very happy that your logs are in New Relic, even if you're not doing any post-processing, right? You're just going to be like, oh, like if I have multiple instances of this one dyno running, like it's really going to be really nice that they're just all the logs are available on New Relic, and you're not wondering like which image, where am I going to look for logs?
Yeah, and I think today is going to be awesome because we're going to actually interact with Heroku logs on New Relic. So we can, in tomorrow's Nerd Log, not to plug tomorrow's Nerd thing, but in tomorrow's Nerd Log, we can talk a little bit about our experience using this integration and figuring out like pros and cons of doing like alternatives. So I'm super excited for that.
All right, let's go look. Yeah. Let's go look at some of sort of how this data comes in on the New Relic side. So is all of this based on logs, including cabins created, or are we sending some metrics as well?
I believe it's mostly based on logs, Emily. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's mostly based on logs because I think we use the New Relic node.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we have the New Relic node agent. So we require a package inside of our bot code. And then from there, we're able to use custom events, which is what you were seeing in the dashboards.
I love it. Yeah, can we go over and look at that dashboard? I want to look at the query for the one line plot that showed up.
Okay, this is kind of very nerdy, but I really like writing queries.
So, star camp. Yeah, so this is based on the logs value. Wow, that's really neat. Yeah, like I sort of thought the charting was possible with logs, but I had not actually seen it yet. So this is great. This is like all doing stuff that I like did not know how it worked. Now, there was one extension idea that Daniel, you mentioned you wanted to talk about, which is when you click on one of these like feedback ones.
Yep. Yep. This is not it. I believe. I know that we activated this extension.
Updated yet? I actually added the feature, so they only link to the issue, but they do not link directly to the issue comment. But in the future, when whoever completes the next feedback step, they'll be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just go on Michael's, if you just scroll down, Daniel, it's on there. Are you looking for the feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
but
scroll
I thought it, oh, wait, yeah, this is directly linked, right?
It will be in the future. It was just
cool.
This, I like changed up the code in the bot.
Yeah. So,
So I think the feature that I think we can code today realistically is creating dashboards for student instructors.
Yeah.
Because right now, like this is great for an administrator, like administrating the whole program. But let's say I'm an instructor teaching 2 students, which is Emily and Daniel, right? I want to see how they're doing specifically. So I was wondering if it'd be cool if we constructed a dashboard where instructor can just see how is Emily doing? Like what percentage of the whole thing has Emily completed, and how many percentage, like how long did it take for each student to complete each step, like the kind of data that's in the log somewhere, but kind of extracting that.
Yeah, I mean, Emily, do you think that probably what we need is in the log so that we can get it?
Most of the data, this is all from the New Relic custom events, so they're logged. So in the code, I like manually code in like I want to log the link, I want to log the repo. So Daniel, if you actually go to query your data, we can see what exactly is happening when I'm talking about the custom events.
So Emily, if you want, you can take over from here, right? If you want to screen share your own screen and send this over, or however you prefer to do it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot and show everyone what your desktop links are.
Yeah, my laptop's just being a little laggy today.
Oh, no worries. This is great. We're here. So this is us returning the user.
Daniel, you can delete the title. So we don't want to make where, we don't want to have any conditions. And then in place of user, you can put a wildcard value. So the asterisk thing. Perfect.
So this is really good.
There we go.
I'm going to clip this out. This is a really good place to just start, right? Is like what, there's actually a data explorer too to do this on custom events, but it's like, what do we have on which of the requests? Yeah. So wait, go back. Let's keep looking back.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay.
Just so, something like count, right? You might say, oh, well, let me just write a query that goes off count. Well, scroll up and down for a minute here because you'll know some things don't have a count value on them. And you just want to be thoughtful of that as you're going to build your query, right? It's to be like, oh, but I showed everything that had a count less than 3. Well, yes, but if stuff had a null value there, it wasn't showing up. So you just need to think a little bit about your queries and make sure that your results are reasonable from the data that you have. So
that makes sense.
I think we can try to say where user equals and then just look at stuff for a single user.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we could also facet off user, but let's just try like, yeah, awesome.
That's my username.
Yes. So you can actually, the reason why some of the counts are blank is because we log both the events of start camp, so when they create the repository, and start step, so when they finish a new step and then they start a new one. So
and Emily, I want to emphasize, like, it's totally normal to have some fields be blank on some log lines, right? Yeah. That's actually, it was a great line from a conversation I had earlier today. That's what logs are. Like, if you always have the same data every time, like the same fields are always filled out, those are metrics, and you should store them as metrics or key value pairs as a smart object. But implicitly, when you go to say, hey, I want I want to have a log line, sometimes it will have a path, sometimes it won't, for kind of obvious reasons, right? Like in this case, right? If we're not sending up a response, we don't want to have a path for a response yet. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please keep talking.
No problem. I was just also going to add, Daniel, I think the query you were writing works. I think you just have to make count lowercase instead of uppercase.
Oh, okay.
I
was like, I thought this. Oh yeah, there we go. So we want to.
Both of you are getting like medals and freedom after this because of your willingness to write SQL live online, which is something I am like extremely good. For a while I was SQL certified and stuff. I will not do it live. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Honestly, it's pretty fun for me.
This is kind of going off tangent, but the way I learned SQL is actually through hacking like SQL injections. So
yeah, it's a good way to do it. And like for sure, like I was doing, nothing terrible, but definitely shady with regex, and that's why I know regex so well, right? Like, going through these really junky data sets and being like, we need all the email addresses here, like all of them. We need to like do all these transforms with regex. Like that's how you get good at it.
Definitely.
So yeah, we could facet off of repo name. We could also say, oh wow.
I have a question. What does facet do?
Oh, so facet, if we change where user equals and change it to facet by user.
Oh, so I should delete this, right?
Yeah.
And then use facet. Like you need to do multi-facet. Is that correct?
No, we should just be able to do facet username.
Okay. Username. Is it? I think it's user.
Yeah, it's just user.
It is not working. It says
facet time series are not supported on the. Oh, sorry. So once we have so this doesn't work for logged events. This only works for like metrics. And the idea with facet is that it will divide the data into chunks based on like that username. So if you have a metric you have stored about a username, like how many times they committed, you can say facet by username, and it'll just give you the usernames and show you, separate plots for each of them. But yeah, facet's of course not supported on events because it's not really, unless it's making a chart, it sort of doesn't really make sense.
Okay.
So should we do? So what's the alternative for facets for events? Like what can we use instead of events for facet?
So since right now we're not actually grouping up data, we're just looking at like lines. This is about as far as we want to go to start with, where we're saying, hey, we have this is going to show you all of the events that are actually germane for this particular user. So now we could change it to just say just select path or something, right? Like, so that was a more useful actual chart. But yeah, then we can save this as this is, Daniel's work history.
So wait, here's what I want to do is, let me undo this real quick. So I think the most helpful would be, so right now I want to find a max count for each repo that the student has. Okay. So I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data points here. I just want to see unique repos with the highest number.
Okay. I think it's possible, but I definitely don't know how. Because, okay, you could certainly say, hey, where count is greater than this, right? But I'm not sure that you can do, because I'm pretty sure that you have to have some kind of logical join there. I'm pretty sure there's not a way to say, group this by, this repo name, and then check for the highest number.
Is union, like what does union do?
Yeah, so union I think is another one that we cannot do with NERCL just because it's expensive enough that we doesn't let us do it. But here we come to the edge of my ability. So where is the place? Oh, hey, that will work. Thank you. Hey, look at this.
Oh my gosh. The comments coming in clutch.
Right. And then you can facet.
Genius.
So just run that. Don't facet quite yet. So start by just running it, and we should get back 4. Perfect. And then we can facet repo name.
Yay.
Whoever did that, Revealed one. Oh my
Reviled
gosh.
one, I'm sure.
Wow,
Reviled.
that's
This is it.
beautiful.
This
That
is it.
Beautiful.
You
This
may
is
have
beautiful.
you may have walked for centuries with a mark upon your forehead, reviled one, but I will welcome you into my hut because you wrote the Nurgle that I needed.
That is very.
Wow, this is beautiful.
This is beautiful.
Wait, let me add this to the dashboard. Be like
Add a new.
Daniel's.
Make a Wait, make a new.
Oh.
No, don't add it to new adventures. Add it. Make a new.
Okay. Who's the instructor dashboard? Ooh, this is genius.
Now there's going to be another way to say, if we go back
to the query your data.
Yeah, will we go back to that same query? So the other
I love your recent queries. It saved my life.
Yes. Wow, that's beautiful.
I would always have like the WordPad file open on the side that I would like save my queries. Well, it's still what I do like for regex or for complicated SQLs. I always have this like progressively changing one. So let's do select max count and then so the other thing we could do here is we could also facet off of username. And so instead, so then we would say, or user, it's just user.
Yeah.
So that's just going to give us like a slightly odd. Well, we want to take out the where clause, the where user equals.
Oh yeah, that would make no sense. Wait, let me delete this and then make. Oh shoot, Daniel is malfunctioning. Oh shoot, yes.
The colors are amazing.
Select the repo name. Right, we can do select max count, comma, repo name. I think it's a comma. Oh boy, this is me writing.
Is it a comma?
Maybe it's just a space. Maybe it's just a space.
I don't think it's a space.
Oh,
either.
facet user, comma, repo name. Yeah. Thanks again, reviled one. Thanks again, reviled one.
That is so fun to say. Oh yes,
they have called you
yes.
the great deceiver so many times. Reviled one.
Yeah, I think this is it.
One, I'd carry you across the river on my back, stinger or not.
This is perfect.
Yeah. So now we have right. Who's getting the furthest right now? Right.
Me.
Yeah.
Emily's actions work now.
That was me just testing the entire curriculum.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
Wait, let's add this to the dashboard. This is pretty spicy.
Very spicy.
Folks, this was a very solid stopping place for like a really cool demo. We saw a lot of cool stuff. We saw a very neat app and a really cool way to look at data based on logs. Emily, we got to have you back to just talk about logs, and maybe custom events sometime in a couple weeks. But this is fantastic. I hear you just won a prize. Is that right?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was actually hacking. I was sad there were no SQL injections though, so could have practiced my querying skills and used them.
Well,
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, just Daniel, you have other stuff you want to show? Because I want to close it up. I want to end on a high note where we got a nicely working graph. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but we've been only live for like 30 minutes.
We've been live for 40 minutes.
Longer.
Mother gets tired. Mother gets tired and needs ice.
Okay, let's make a compromise. So
no, if there's more stuff you want to do, I want to see it. I'm excited. I thought this was a good spot. If there's more stuff you want to show, we can totally take a look at it.
So
no, I think this is great. I think.
Sorry. So we had Daniel's. We had Daniel's progress, right? So is there any way we can create a separate widget for him, like that student only, and then also have the nice little progress bars for each repo?
Yes. So we're faceting off of username. So we're getting, the most progress anybody has done, but we could just go back and add that where clause that says, hey, where the username is equal to this thing. Now, I just think that like in the real world, this one makes a little more sense, right? Where we want to define it maybe so it's sorted by username or something like that. But it's unlikely in the real world we actually want to say, oh, yeah, you can just use the filter on the dashboard too, which would also work. So this works, but it's a little bit like, I'd love it to death, but it is just a little bit unrealistic because it's like, hey, So we should be able to, under view query, we open that in query builder, there should be a setting there to change the filter settings. Other
Like-
groups visible? Nope, that's not it. I thought that you could set a filter here too, as just as.
Oh shoot, this is perfect. We could have a threshold so we can see who's
that's
ahead of the curve.
perfect,
Yeah.
You know, could you make that based off of like time, where after a certain like amount of weeks, like it would follow? So like week 1, the threshold would be only like 2 or something, and then as we go on to week 2, the threshold would increase.
So ideally, you'd send, if you don't want to have to encode all this in the query, ideally we'd send a key value pair. Yeah, you could. By the way, yes, for wild one table
That's
would
a
be
good
a good. If you want to send a key value pair of what was expected for you that week, right? This is pretty classic, like analytics back and forth. Is if you're in nice control of how you're viewing your events now, you very often want to come back and be like, oh, this means I'd like to have a little more data being sent up with each event, right? So if you added, I'm just typing into the Twitch chat, but if you added like, right, week is 1 and week max score, right, is equal to 4. Then you could say, instead of showing just a number here, you could say, score out of max, and you could display people's, what their actual progress is on that particular week.
And I think it's great because we can, with this, I think we could also, because we also have other data such as a step name. So, I mean, I think we can do a lot of stuff with Facet and just queries.
Yeah.
Wait, I think that's genius.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Facet is super powerful. The only times it doesn't get use is when you really do know who your troublemakers are for whatever reason. So like a good example would be you have a service in a particular region, it is the thing that is troublesome. Or you say, which hopefully actually we're doing is maybe the next stage of this app, is we say, everything that's happening now is happening in like a test environment or a dev environment, and we want to have a separate dashboard later for a production environment. In that case, we probably wouldn't facet by environment. We probably just like hard code it into the dashboard, right? Like we're always going to want to just see production data here, or vice versa. But
How do you pass in key value pairs? Because that's really interesting for me. How do you do that?
Well, I don't know what code we're in, but we did add calls you added calls in the application code for custom events, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So those custom events here, I'll drop the link in the Twitch chat.
Let me go look at that.
Which you can also Google New Relic custom events. Oh, you should add in your language, right? You like whatever language you're working in.
Yep, Node.
It will be. It will be that will be specific to how you communicate with that language agent. So if you do New Relic custom events Node.
Is there a way to do it directly in the UI where you have a master dashboard and you want to communicate a change in threshold to the rest of the dashboards? Because we don't want to do it programmatically.
So you definitely from custom event, with that select call, right, you can apply like an alert policy to it.
Alert policy might be interesting. Yes,
but not for like, if the thing I was mentioning where we're saying, hey, how many weeks have we spent on? This is a great. Actually, I have to pause and answer Revolve's question, which is a great one and a classic one. So, do you suggest using environment attributes or using sub accounts to separate non-prod and prod data? And I would say both of those. So, the two possible approaches are when you send an event or when you send application data. Do you either like just try to tag some hosts or some entities as, hey, this is a dev instance, or do you have two separate New Relic accounts and have two separate license keys that you're distributing around? Or not license keys, but API keys. So you're just sending it to two totally separate New Relic accounts. Revolve, I think that both approaches make sense. It's going to have a lot more to do with whether, for example, that data is readily available for your stuff. So if you're using the Heroku does tagging, obviously there's AWS tagging. If you're using that tagging already now, then I think it just makes sense to send that stuff up to one account and then just filter based on that. So you just say, hey, everything's tagged with this, AWS environment variable that says it's prod, then show it over here. If you're not doing that, or you sort of it really is tough for you to look at maybe like events or anything else from an entity, which is entity is just our super generic term for something that emits metrics. And you're like, it really is like unclear. Then yeah, I think that going to the trouble of like having two separate keys, right? One for one account, one for the other, that might make some sense. So a lot of it's going to depend on kind of what your, I'm not going to want to say tech debt, but sort of just what your setup is and how easy it is to for you to define like, here's this value. Because we have like limited regex in Urkel now, like even if your difference is as subtle as like, yeah, like these ones have capital letters in these names and these ones don't, you can do that with like custom queries. So it is doable, but so yeah, both approaches make sense. And I'm not like a solutions consultant, so I don't know like what did 90% of people do, but you definitely see both in the wild. You see both versions. Awesome. And in fact, in like serverless land and in Heroku land, sometimes you end up with like, oh, I kind of thought of this as like a dev service, but actually like a bunch of production stuff hits it, so you sort of have to look at where you are as an org. I'm sorry, Daniel, what were you saying?
Oh, I'm just saying that's really cool. I was just reacting to your wisdom, the stream of wisdom exiting.
Yeah, it is nice working on a product that I've worked on for so long, like that I got to see people use for so long before I like got my hands dirty myself. I'm like, it's very nice. It's an interesting position to be in. So we have student progress, right? So
yeah, I think this is great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Also, I think we could do a total as well. So.
Oh, wait. Before we do that, I have a question. So right now, these are in the form of just steps, which I think are helpful, but not that helpful. I think it'd be more helpful to do percentages of like percentage complete. So we know the total number of steps, right? So we want to compare percentages.
Yeah. So
is there a way to do
that? Just do math on that max count. So select max count. You can just do space. Divided by 12. Let's say there's 12 steps. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There are 9. Wait, let me think. Because we're going by count is by like index values. So 0 is the start. So and then 8 is the end. So I guess it'd be 9. Yeah. But the thing is, count. Yeah. But count starts at 0.
Also, you to make this easier on yourself, which is I often do, is I would say max count plus 1. Right, to say like if you do 1, that's
perfect.
1 step.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then yeah, div 8 or div 9, yeah, whatever makes it feel like it makes sense. Yeah, like.
Oh shoot! Parentheses. Wait, how do you make it a percentage?
Mm-hmm.
You don't really. You can multiply that result by 100.
Oh yeah.
Can you like in like the display to make it pretty? Can we add like a percentage sign just next to it?
I don't. You can with a custom visualization, of course.
I
don't know if there's another great way.
I mean, it's still fine. It looks like a percentage.
Can we round it?
Yeah. So go to data format there.
Round it. How do I round it?
Data format.
Bottom right. Data format.
Below right. Thresholds.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Number.
Number. Oh shoot! Oh. Yeah, that's perfect. And then wait, I have a question. So right now the warning has to be less than the critical.
Oh, okay.
But we want it to be flipped because lower is worse.
Right. Okay.
Is there a way to do that?
God, I did not. No, I was going to test it out like.
No worries if you don't.
Probably again with a custom viz we could, or we could flip it for the alert, but maybe there should be a way. There should be a way. I've dealt with this exact thing.
Or we could just do 100 minus and then just make it like
times 100 remaining. At the end is definitely how I do it. Right. And then you can do like level of progress. The only thing is then you're not getting as readable a chart, so that's really not that great like a result.
When
you're
I mean, this is like
alert,
sorry, go ahead.
You definitely can. If you define an alert based on this metric, yes, you can set a low and a high threshold. So this automatic like threshold thing is just not something I'm like that used to. But yeah, it is funny that you get into these situations where it's like, which way is the y-axis going? Yeah,
this is amazing though. Yeah, I think that this is pretty awesome regarding like the ability for instructors to just get visibility into their projects. I feel like this is one of the weirder uses for New Relic that
I
I've
mean,
seen out.
it would be a waste not to use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will tell you, right? As we shift to SaaS tools, you see many companies, New Relic is no exception. You just read the press release from yesterday, where a big focus is less on an exact cash flow, but about user behavior and user flow and things like usage level. So what we previously had sort of associated with only with really, really big like social networks, like, Spotify, we want people to listen a lot, or like Facebook, obviously we want people to destroy their entire lives spending all their life on Facebook. That now you'll see as companies smaller and smaller they'll start like presenting consumption data to like investors to say, when people log on and use our site, they use it for this much time. And so, for example, having like this, like a leaderboard of here are the people who use this site the most. It matters. Yeah. So yeah, I think also the other problem is that these thresholds are backwards, right? So like they also are working backwards. So they're like they're warning you if someone's score gets too high. So they're being flipped is one thing, but they also just hardcore do not work.
Yeah, but I think this is a really great like progress for what we accomplished. We learned about containers, we learned about Nurgle queries, we learned about Nika's wisdom because she's been working on this product forever apparently.
Too long,
so she's the oracle.
I had the best institutional experience thing the other week. My father told me about one. He works in semiconductors and makes like timing chips, which is a subtle little piece of electronics.
Oh.
And he was talking to somebody who's a new hire, and he says, "Oh yeah, I've been working on test equipment here for a very long time, running projects like this." And then the guy asks him, like, "How long have you been here?" And he's like, "Oh, about 26 years actually." And the guy says, "Oh, that's wild. I'm 25." It's like he'd been.
That's gonna be me and Emily. Like Emily, like.
Yeah. That's what you want to do is you want to freak people out by like, you've been at this enterprise longer than I've been alive. But this was great though. Oh, what a fun session.
What a fun
Emily,
session.
Do you want people to come and check out your projects now? Do you have stuff you want to plug? If you want to drop stuff into the Zoom chat, I will put it over in the
Apply.
Yeah, let's get that apply link in there, which I think we have.
Daniel, get the apply link.
So Emily and I will be hosting a free open source bootcamp that is free. Did I mention it was free? And it's designed for people with little to no experience in tech.
And I get to come, right? You were gonna let me guest, right? I get to come help out.
Of course, we're gonna have a new Relic segment, and we would love to have you, Nika. You have an open invitation.
All right. Well, that is super exciting. The only other thing I want to promo is Future Stack.
I'll be there.
I know the Future Stack trigger is ! Future Stack. There it is in the chat.
Hey, Emily, do you want to talk about Future Stack for a second?
Yeah,
like, what are we going to be doing at Future Stack?
Yeah, well, Future Stack overall just like really cool because I'll be there and Daniel too. I'm just kidding. But we'll be talking, and we're going to be talking about how DevOps, we use DevOps, and most importantly, New Relic in developing this app you just saw on the stream. So if you found it interesting, if you want to hear more about how we developed it, how we're using New Relic, to how we instrumented New Relic and how it's been benefiting us for the past like 2 months or something, how it helped me find bugs, just hop on in, register, listen, and Daniel's hosting a really, really cool workshop. So
Emily's gonna be part of it. So
yeah,
I'm gonna be hosting a workshop that is gonna be bringing all the production value of wigs, acting.
Wait, I have the
lights,
sunglasses.
camera action.
Ready?
Yeah, Emily's gonna be wearing her sunglasses.
Wait, can I expose the role I'm playing?
Yeah, you can.
I'm the security. Wow. Wait, what am I? What's the official title, Daniel? Security.
I think you're gonna be either the policewoman or the security engineer.
Got it.
But we're gonna be playing roles for this workshop, and we're gonna be
full-on production.
Yeah, it's a production, and it's gonna be teaching people about DevOps. So if you're curious and you want to win prizes and stuff,
the prizes are really good. Even though I can't do it.
So no one asked, but what I'm doing for Future Stack is
Sorry, I should have asked.
Please tell us.
Right. Fine. Oh, but while I'm talking about this, Daniel, will you look at who we should raid?
Yes.
Ellie's streaming right now, and Aisha's not streaming, so I'm not sure who we should be raiding. We can always go raid Jason Langsdorf, but maybe we should do people who are in our org. But so for Future Stack, I'll be talking about serverless observability, and I'll also be talking about another thing that I know what it is, and I don't know what it is. I just want to. There's another talk I'm supposed to give, but I don't remember what it's about. But it'll be good. It'll be a good one. Okay. No, because that's separate. That's a separate one. So yeah, the SonicPy thing. Okay, so the other thing I'm doing is I'm doing a session with Sam Aaron where we write some SonicPy code, and then at lunchtime he's gonna actually do a set with Ruby, which I absolutely love, making beats and tunes and all that stuff with Ruby, which I'm super excited. That's gonna be really, really cool. That's the day before, right? Right, Mia? Right, producer Mia?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the day before. Yeah, it's the day before, I think. Anyway, go over to futurestack.com. Come check it out. We got the bit.ly link in here. Sign up. It's going to be a good time. We're going to get some neat swag. Reviled one, you better be there. You got some cool stuff to say, so we got to do that.
Definitely. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for coming, everyone. And I want to thank Emily, first of all, for taking time out of her very busy day, wallowing in her victory of $2,500 from her competition. And come talking to me and the fabulous Nika about everything that we talked about, like logs and Heroku.
Probably we'll do user stories again in 2 weeks. Nerdlog is Thursdays at noon Pacific. And user stories will be when we have users with stories. If you're watching this and you feel like I'm a user and I have a story, come and get me on Twitter. I'm at Serverless Mom. And I bet I can remember the command to do that. You got me. You beat me, Mia. But yeah, come and ping me on twitter.com/serverlessmom, and I'll happily try and get a few more people involved. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Bye everyone.
Bye.